You guys have a stake in Deutsche Bank. Ingo, what do you think about Christian Sewing as the new CEO?
Clearly, it's a reasonable solution. I guess it's not the perfect solution, but at one hand, Mr. Sewing knows the bank quite well, and he can clearly follow the restructuring process. That's quite important. On the other hand, he also has to adapt the strategy. So we have to see no news on investment banking, and we need an investment banking that's far more focused and an investment banking that's far more profitable.
All right, so John Cryan was basically doing this, and he was revamping his strategy a couple of times during his tenure. Why should Christian Sewing be able to do a better job than Cryan was able to do in the last 2.5 years?
Regarding the pure restructuring, Mr. Cryan did a good job, actually. On the other hand, we have to question Mr. Sewing because he's not from the investment banking. So what will be with the investment banking unit? He is from the commercial, classical banking in Germany, and he has a total different focus. So it's quite interesting to see on the management board level a change, but also at the supervisory board level we are going to see a change more and more towards investment banking. And that's a development that's quite interesting, actually.
What do you expect, speaking of the supervisory board, for Paul Achleitner? I mean, he has overseen these last 3 or 4 CEOs. He's been in that seat as the stock has dropped from an 80 euro stock down to an 11 euro stock.
Currently, Mr. Achleitner drives the change, but in general, the question is the supervisory board in the right shape? Yes, it is. But at the other hand, the supervisory board has to bring the power to the strategy, and the supervisory board has to push the bank in the right direction. And in this regard, we haven't seen any good news in the past.
What would you like to see there? I mean, would you like to see a replacement for Achleitner?
First of all, the bank has to adapt the strategy, and the management board has to focus on a slightly different strategy because the strategy doesn't work. It will be interesting to see what Mr. Sewing will do. And in a second step, at the AGM, we will see what the supervisory board is doing as well.
All right, so what can drive the stock higher? I mean, ultimately what you want is a sustainable growth in the share price, right? Is it just continued restructuring, i.e. headcount reduction? They have 41,000 employees at the investment bank.
It's not only about headcount reduction. It's also about gaining back market share in the investment banking unit. And gaining back market share means driving top line in investment banking and driving EPS per share. And we have to see it not only in one quarter, we have to see it over many quarters, and that will drive the share price finally. So
we also heard that Garth Ritchie is going to be the sole head of the investment bank and a co-deputy CEO. He's not new to this bank. He's been at Deutsche since, I think, 1996. Is he the right man to lead the charge to refocus the investment bank?
For me, the main question is what's the power of Mr. Garth Ritchie on the one hand for the investment banking unit, and what will be the new CEO do with the investment bank? And that's an interesting battle we will see over the next weeks.
It looks like they've already kind of kicked it off this morning with Mr. Sewing saying he wants to take a new look at the corporate investment bank, and Ritchie putting out a note saying that there's going to be no management changes in the near term. Would you like to see the investment banking business being pulled out of the U.S., being pulled further, closer to Frankfurt and further away from London?
First of all, the investment bank has to be refocused in the U.S. It's the biggest market, it's the most important market, and the most profitable market in the world for investment banking.
So you don't want to leave that market?
In my understanding, it's quite difficult to leave it totally. But you have to adapt the strategy. You have to focus on certain markets, you have to focus on profitable niches, and you have to focus on growth. And the investment bank has to come back on a path that's profitable and where you see growth in the future. And we don't see it yet.
What would make you, what do you need to see to start building your position? You still have a fairly significant position in Deutsche Bank, 0.5% stake. What would you need to see to grow it back to where Union used to hold Deutsche Bank at more than 1%?
We have to see EPS growth. We have to see, first of all, market share gains in the investment bank, that the league tables are better, and we have to see a current strategy that drives growth in the future. And we don't see anything of that currently.